how much are people actually focused on the French election? Could this be a potential game changer for markets and for politics in Europe?
I think the French election right now, along with Donald Trump, is the biggest political story in the world. And I think arguably for markets it's also extremely important as well. The big question that people have is whether the earthquakes that we saw last year with Brexit and with Trump will continue into Europe this year, into mainland Europe. And the real question why France really matters is that this is about the euro. Le Pen has campaigned on a platform to take France out of the euro, and the very question that there could even be a referendum on this in a country as important as France could really spook the market. So this is a crucial election for investors.
John, what are they voting on? So as a French voter, do I go and vote on the economy because I feel left behind? Do I feel cheated by the rich, or do I actually worry about security and terrorism?
I think security is the #1 issue when you talk to people in France. I mean, of course, everything you spoke about, people feeling left behind, the anger of the establishment, we saw that in Brexit, we saw that in the US, you also have that in France. But if you really look at what's sort of deeply important to people, you just have to look at the history of France over the last 2.5 years with these terrorist attacks. Islamic State is bringing their campaign very much onto French soil. Security is the #1 issue. It's the issue that Le Pen, in particular, is really doubling down on.
Right. What is the one thing that could be a game changer? So I know the polls seem to fluctuate a lot more because we have the disruptor, Marine Le Pen, and then you actually have unknown quantities.
They are moving around a lot for Fillon and for Macron, but I think the really interesting thing is if you look at Le Pen's vote, it's pretty static. Yeah. So especially in the all-important second round, she needs to get 50% in a runoff. She hasn't really polled above, I think, 42% in any of the polls. That was her best poll.
Yeah.
She's sort of stable around 40%, so she's got a huge 10 percentage point gap to make up between now and the start of May.
John Ferrer, this will get lost in translation, but on the 40th anniversary of the American classic Slapshot and Paul Newman and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, who is that guy? Run the film here of Fillon right now. Excuse me, of Macron. I got to get my French names right. John, help me here with this guy. Is this like the second coming of Trudeau? Is this guy Trudeau-esque or what? Where does he fit in to the culture and the fabric of France?
That's not necessarily a bad comparison. I mean, Macron, you have to remember, he's incredibly young. He's 39, just a little bit younger than you, Tom. He came literally from nowhere. He made a huge gamble a few months ago by deciding to get into the race, and everything has fallen his way. So right now, he does look like the man to beat.
Right. I mean, Tom, he's not as smooth as Justin Trudeau. Like, let's take a step back. Justin Trudeau comes from a long line of politicians. Right. His father was prime minister. I mean, Macron is liked by the markets, but he was a hedge fund person 3 years ago. So he's literally come out of nowhere, and we've seen through and through the campaign him doing missteps, like when he talked about Algeria and colonization.
But if I'm smoking a Chaton cigarette at a cafe with Jim Hertling in Paris, are the French people engaged by these three candidates?
I think if you look at who people like, Marine Le Pen is by far and away the most popular candidate. She's extremely charismatic. She knows how to speak to voters. There's no real love. I mean, Fillon has his own problems right now, obviously, with these allegations, and Macron himself is probably seen as just being a little bit too smooth, a little bit too clinical. But right now, if you look at the establishment candidates, the candidates in the middle, he is the one to whom who is making the fewest mistakes right now, or around whom the fewest sort of scandals seem to be swirling. So if he is the front runner, he is almost the front runner by default at this point.